Oh, what is up, fam? We are live back here again in the fucking US of fucking hey. Hello, I am Michael 610 underscore Razor, and I'm back here again with a awesome little, I guess, interactive video, right? Everyone knows about 3D printing. We've all heard about it. We're all, ooh, fun, right? We all hear about it. We never see it in person. So I have bought out a 3D printer a long time ago. I've had this for almost a year now. I bought this little puppy for like 400 bucks. All right. And I thought it was the fucking coolest thing ever. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was the coolest motherfucker ever. Right? So what do you okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little gist of what's going on. Alright. So this is a Core XY machine. So you everyone's seen like the basic Ender 3. Everyone's seen the basic 3D printers, right? The regular ones, the basic bitches. This is a Core XY. It's different. So instead of the nozzle moving up and down, the bed moves up and down. So it's in a cube. So the whole thing's like built around a cube. The whole printer is a cube. So what you're looking at right now is you're looking at the build surface. You're looking at the print head going back and forth X and Y, but Z is controlled by the lead screws on either side of the build plate, which you can definitely tell between the video thing. And right now, I'm actually building this engine block. So let me give you guys a little bit of introduction of how things are set up and what goes on. So this is 3D printing. Is it really gonna fill in the holes? I don't really want it to fill in the holes. I didn't know it was gonna fill in the holes. Oh, that's weird. We shouldn't do that. So you can see right here is that this is an engine block, right? V8. And so this is the finished product. I don't know why it does the top. Yeah. It weirdly does the top, and then it does this right here. Which really doesn't make sense if you go to prepare, it just shows holes. It's like it was just gonna do it. But I wonder if it just did that because of a structure aspect to the print. But anyways, you go back to this. And yeah, it looks kind of weird. It looks kind of fuzzy. That's just because of all the lines. Um, the reason why it looks laggy too is because what's going on is that this software is not meant to do a lot of lines. This is a very fine one too. I have it set at 1.1 millimeters on my draft. So what? So this is Cura. So typically, your 3D printer, when you get it, it will come with its own software. My printer is a Trunksy. It's a Trunksy 5AS something Pro. It's supposed to do 330 millimeters by 330 millimeters by 400 millimeters. So basically, a foot by a foot by 2 feet, right? Or something like that. Definitely more than yeah. It's accurate. Almost a foot for X and Y and 2 feet for Z. Um, but anyways, every printer will come with it. Trunksy has its own software, how they like to run, how they like to do it. I don't like it. I don't like their software. Their software's pretty shit. Is it just gonna do layer lines? Oh my god. I don't like how it does that layer lines. Oh god. So you can see where it's gonna go slow, which that's just gonna be a fucking jumbled mess, I'm telling you. And then you can see the line types. So you got infill. Let's get rid of the shell. So you can see where the shell's at. Travel motions. Let's go get rid of the. We have so all right. I think I'm gonna get way too ahead of all you guys. If you guys had any questions, right? So in the ideas of 3D printing, in the ideas of 3D printing, um, you start off with a model, right? So this is a model I have. Give me a second. So I'm going to show you what is a different model. So there are websites out there called Thingiverse. Websites like Thingiverse or anything else, just type in STL, file source sharing. STL is a type of file that there is out there. Um, let's do this one. So I clicked over on one of my Kira, which has the icon of Kira. So I clicked on I clicked on 3D Benchy. This is a benchmark test. It's a pretty decent one. I recommend it. Um, it's actually it actually works pretty well. So it has popped up right here. So we're at the Core XY, where everything else. So you have your thing, right? You can move it around the build surface. You can do whatever you want to it. You can limit it out to 0 and 0, which will make it dead nut 0. Right? What else you can do is you can resize. So you can resize your print to 200%, 1000%, and all the way this big. You can't even see it. It's too huge. But yeah, that's as big as I'm allowed to go. 10%. All right. This is 10% of the print. And if you go back here, you can go and add a 0. And you can make it 100% again. There you go. So this is the benchy. So basically, you have no support. You do, I believe, like 5% infill. Not 5, but like either some sort of infill. It's like 10 or 15% infill. And basically, what you do is you tell it the infill, and then it builds it up, and it's got these like arches right here. So you don't do any support. So your printer has to physically. You're telling the printer not to do any support. You're telling it just to make the product. So and it does it. I did it. It worked all right. It really didn't get the 3D benchy in the back. Hashtag 3D benchy. But that's beside the point. So what you have right here is your brim. So let's just say we're gonna slice this, right? Okay, quick slice. It's not a big print. It's all right. All right, so we're gonna actually redo this. So I'm gonna just do material. We're doing shell. There we go. So what the 3D printer does is that it starts from the bottom. So right now it's doing the brim. And that's called the 3D printing brim. So as it goes around the printer, it's going to make a some sort of a holding surface for your part. Typically, you want your brim to be very like to the print body or the surface. So that's why there's a brim. So after it's done with the brim, typically it's like I leave it at standard setting, so it's a pretty decent brim. I think it's like 20 lines of the brim. Yeah, like this is the brim, 20 lines. And then it goes in and it does all of this weird funky nonsense, makes the D, makes that, makes all the letters. I think this guy's got upside down, so it's 3D X, Y, Z. Well, never mind, we're looking at upside down. Ha! Right? Because the D doesn't matter. Um, and then it goes in here and it just fills it in. And then it'll slowly come up. And I chose this infill. This is a different infill than what they typically use on the 3D printing, and that's alright. You have infill, so I don't think you guys will be able to see it, but I'm gonna go and choose a different infill. So we're gonna do this one. We'll try this one. So you can see the infill is really weird. It's just lines all the way across. And it does an alright job. It looks really fucked up though. I really don't appreciate that. But I think this type of infill right here would definitely keep like water out, if you're actually making a bowl. So we can go to this one. So it's all like on everyone's preference. 3D printing and also the infill could definitely be the infill in of itself can just be a generic infill. Lines. It's all based on how you want your infill to look. Because they're all basically the same. This one's just it's a 3D subdivision, cubic. And you got the trihex, and we'll look at that. So it's just hexes. It's literally just hex, just all the way up. With triangles in them. That's why they call it a trihex. And then you got 3D cross. There's a whole bunch of different styles of, different styles of these. And 3D is probably the weirdest one. Basically, it's just across 3D. And I mean, I don't really have a big preference on filament, on design. I mean, it's infill. It's just supposed to be support. So this says it's normally calculated, but currently is in a different setting, value setting. So this is already this is your value setting of the density. Let's try grid. I know what lines look like. Lines are pretty alright. So this is what I typically use. This is the basic grid format. I either use grid, and I believe I use a line. I typically don't go too far deep into that rabbit hole to know what the fuck I'm doing half the time. But yeah, either grid or line's basically the same thing. It's fucking bigger. And this is what your print looks like, right? So you have determined what your style is. So you've determined that your 3D printer is whatever it is. So what I do with my 3D printer is that I go here. When you get Kira, I recommend everyone to try a couple of different softwares because every software is different. They all work different. They're all different in their own way. Kira is a very basic bitch simulator. Basically it's the fucking easiest to master, easiest to learn. And 3D printing is a whole bunch of learning. You can't just plop down your 3D printer and you can't just plop down a model and then just say run. It don't work like that, bud. I am terribly sorry. I wish it was. I wish it was where you could just plop down your model and just run, just print it right out of the box. You can't. Um, how I have my 3D printer set up is that I have it set up where I have a different. I mean, I infill's different. Infill's based on all your parts. Basically, it should actually be based on your the software should know what to do with it. But I change it. I changed my infill speed to slower, or I actually no, I think I made it faster. So we're gonna get rid of that, and we're gonna look at all the settings that I have for my Kira. So we're gonna start with this. So we're gonna start with layer. So that's in between layers of your part. So the thicker your layer is, the shittier your part's gonna look. I have it basically set on fine. You have ultra fine, which is 0.06, which is a very very tight tolerance. So every time your print does a Z move down or up, depending on what your printer is, anytime you're building up on a layer. So every layer is a thing. So depending on what your printer is wanting to do or what you want your print to look like, uh, determines on this. This is automatically this is linked together. So these guys are they're always these things are shared. So the internal layer height, it's a little different. It's just how I have it set up. Then we have density, which I have changed. Um, I typically like to keep a lot of things natural. Um, with filament, you'll see right on your spool, depending on you if you're using PLA, ABS, TPU, TUP, PETG, nylon, PLA nylon. There's so many filaments I can't tell you all. There's even metal filaments. Like if you wanted to go out and get a metal extruder, you can do it. Um, it's gonna be really fucking hard to do, but like it's a software thing. You have to go to your limit of your machine, and you gotta tell it allow, and it's crazy. But I leave a lot of stuff different. So the build volume, uh, which if zero, the build volume temperature will not be adjusted. So I have my printing at 200. Then I have the internal printing at, so basically the minimal heating up of the print and the final printing temperature, which is the you really never touch them. I'll just be honest. And then you have the build plate. So I actually have it set at 65 right now. Um, but right now it really doesn't really matter. You basically don't want the filament to get cold. You get the filament cold, then it starts making bad parts. Because once it touches down and it solidifies down to that build surface, it's still cold. So the problem is you'll have lifting of the part, you'll have problems hearing right. There's a lot of reasons why you want to keep it warm. I actually don't know how high I can go with my heat pad, but I don't want to find out. But typically 60 is a good number to go around. And this is also linked up with all these, so it's all everything else. And then you have the flow rate, and then you have this is just how fast your flow is going. Typically you leave that 100, you just switch your travel distance. So the traveling is moving in of itself. Retraction speed, I have that set at 9. It typically is set at 6.5 millimeters. I have it set at 9 because my printer and the style of it, what it is, it likes to goo out. Like if you see in the printer, I don't know if you can really notice, but there's actually a lot of stringiness going on right in between the part, right where it's done, it jumps over and moves between each other. The stringiness, it happens. It shit happens, right? And that's just kind of the basic thing of it. It happens. Being some people who are watching, I'm surprised no one's actually talking. But anyways, I leave it at 9. That's just how my how everything works in mine. Basically, how hot it is. Every printer is different. And then usually leave that alone. And then speed, I think I turned that. Actually, yeah, I turned that down to the same speed because I think it was going too fast. The travel I've changed. That's just generic travel that I found out that works for my printer. Um, I've also noticed that void travel distance. So basically, so this is basically between the distance between the nozzle and the already printed parts to avoid uh traveling moves. So you're telling your printer to go up uh 0.625 if it's doing a travel move. So it's gonna lift up a tad, go over to your thing and drop down and then reprint. Um and then you tell it layer start, which is basically near the part of the finish. So basically, that's a shift. You're telling your printer to shift off of whatever you want. So you have X, Y, then you have a Z hop retraction. So basically, when it's done doing the lower between, it will do stuff. Ah, Jesus, I love how YouTube's like, it's not working right. Shut the fuck up, YouTube. It's warning me that it's not getting enough smooth. I think it looks smooth to me. Yeah, she'll buff. So, anyways, you got cooling, which I have the printing cool fan. So basically, while it enables the print cool fan, the fan improves the print quality in the layer with short layer times and bridging and overhangs. So basically, it cools down the film before it either sags and everything else. And I everything set at normal. Brim, that's what you got, either brim, skirt, raft, or none. I've actually never seen what raft is. Oh, it's just instead of circling around it, it's just back and forth motion. Oh, that's just so fucking nice. I really don't like that, but YOLO. We're gonna switch that back to skirt. Let's see what skirt does. I actually haven't really looked at a lot of these. But I know it. Okay, yeah, right here. So you got the skirt basic. So either you have skirt, brim, or raft. Raft is just a back and forth motion. Skirt is outside of not touching the part. Basically, you're telling this is the perimeter of said part, and you're all right with it. So that's basically what it's telling it to do. Basically, you're not touching the part, so that's just the outside. I don't have dual extrusion on my printer, so we're leaving that alone. Uh, So this is basically ignore overlapping, remove all holes. Uh, let's see what happens. I really haven't fucked around with this. I've just tried to do what I can. So it looks like it fucked with that a little bit. We'll see what this does. I don't like it. Well, re-look at that hole up here. Really nothing different. And then you have print one at a time or all at once. It really depends on your print and how many prints you have. Then you have mold, which basically print molds as mold, which can be cast in order to get a mold of it. So great. So I think it's gonna just do a cast around the thing. Yeah. See, I don't even know how that's supposed to support itself. Right here, the inside of the boat is not even being supported by anything. So how? But you can make molds of something. So basically, you tell it to the outside perimeter of the boat. That's awesome. But there's so much more you could do with 3D printing instead of just doing this. I love seeing difference. I love finding the different formats and different things you can do with 3D printing and all that. I don't like that. I think I fucked up this. No, I got it back. Experimental, then you have slicing tolerance. Basically, how to slice layers is a dimensional, excessive, or will fall within a parameter. Basically, you have a tolerance. Basically, you tell the printer to go bigger on that tolerance. Um, resolution of the part different. Whether to include a wipe G code nozzle between layers, enabling the setting could. I want to see what this wipe nozzle does. I've never seen what a wipe nozzle does. Basically, whenever it retracts, it's done. Uh, is That's really interesting. I've never seen a wipe. But yeah, that's basically it about Kira. Basically, you put your model in there, you fine tune some settings typically you want to do your feed speeds and holds. And after that, you just want to kind of figure out what are your basic settings and then experiment around with some of your stuff. Figure out what your printer likes. Figure out what it doesn't like. Mine's a Core XY. Basically, it's got two motors that do the X and Y, but they're all like belted together in this weird belt format. And it's all this weird shit. But yeah, I guess I can leave you guys just to kind of watch the 3D printer and just kind of go and do its thing. It's nothing special. It's just a printer. It's nothing special. I mean, I've seen it just run. I've done bigger prints on this before. I did a big giant otter. Mother. And this is one of the biggest things why I think people should have 3D printers. It's the act of learning problem solving. So instead of it being auto set up for you and everything's ready to go, no, you actually have to somewhat figure out printing. You actually have to figure out what to do. It's not just you slap it together. You fucking tell it to make a STL, and the printer can't figure out by itself. So it's great for like young kids, some people who want to learn a little bit in life, want to grow as an individual. And don't get me wrong, if you don't want to do it, I'm not saying you don't want to grow as an individual. I'm saying this as a idea for like creative minds. Everyone's different. But this is pretty interesting. 3D printing, yeah, it's boring after you watch it for a while, but you get something nice out of it. Like, people don't understand that at the end of the day, you can finally tell your family, I made something, I actually did something worth something. Instead of, I just at home and I slept, or whatever you kids do these days. Because I find it satisfying watching this go and do its thing and all that. There's not a lot of things that I ever really come up to print. A lot of times I just sit back and I'm like, we'll just randomly just make this. We'll randomly make this object. Because why not? Why the fuck not? Because I don't see a problem just randomly just making an object. I have 4 spools of filament. I have a clear one that I use like once. I have a like yellow green one that I've used maybe a third of it, and then I have a black filament that I've used half of it. I'm surprised this is actually not. Well, no. I'm surprised it didn't take that much filament. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised too. But I'm only doing. I'm doing basically from this size. I'm doing 70% to try to make it at. And you don't have to make everything massive. You don't have to make everything small. So there's a couple of different printers. So you've got this type of printer that just it goes back and forth and it prints with the nozzle. Then you got like a liquid one. The liquid one's interesting. It's weird. It's interesting but weird. I don't know how to describe it. I love how like people trying to show up but they don't talk. Anyways, though, thank you guys for watching this little video live stream. There's no Q&A. I rambled on for way too long, for like 9 minutes.